Howdy, ESSM 406. Welcome to Unit 3. In Unit 2, we talked a lot about environmental policy problems, and you learned how to divide them into common pool resource issues, public good issues, what externalities were involved, environmental justice, and now we're going to talk about some of the environmental policy solutions. And in fact, we have so many solutions that we broke it into 2 different units. Our first unit, we're really going to focus on command and control regulation and property and markets. So those are like the more traditional environmental policy solutions. But then we're also going to talk about more creative solutions. So thinking about more community-based solutions or collaborative governance or alternative dispute resolution. We're going to be a little bit more creative in the unit following this one. So you have lots of readings because there's so many different solutions. We want to share that with you. But for this unit, we're going to focus on 2 general buckets. The first is command and control, and the second is property and markets. So this is often discussed in public policy as governments versus markets. And this is really popular for back in the Cold War days, where you're either a capitalist or a communist. And it was a super strong dichotomy. But if you think about that, it's really overhyped, right? Think of how government is really closely connected to property and markets. So, and command and control regulation is also really common in capitalist, even though it's really associated with being with the state. And this core idea goes back to an essay we had you read last unit about Tragedy of the Commons, which was written by Garrett Hardin. And that's where he talked about the pasture that was being overgrazed. And now you know to define that as a common pool resource. This was an open pasture that anyone could bring their animals to feed from. And what he wanted to propose were 2 different solutions. Either the government does command and control and steps in to regulate, or the government steps in and assigns property rights to individuals. So it's no longer a communal pasture, it's broken into individual property. And he said those were the only solutions. But this is where I want you to be a little more critical and think about, well, what kind of creative solutions there could be to this. Going to the community-based solutions, looking at maybe a collaborative governance. I'm sure there's got to be more than just 2 solutions to that problem. So we'll talk about that in the unit following this one. And so you'll kind of think maybe Garrett Hardin isn't as correct as he's been held to. So for this unit, though, we really want to stick to either the command and control or the property and market solutions to deal with these environmental policy issues. Additionally, in this unit, we're going to talk about cost-benefit analysis, which is a tool for analyzing the relative benefit for costs and benefits of different policies. Now, for upcoming lectures, we're going to go into greater detail about defining what really are command and control regulations and what are properties and markets. There's also a really good new reading by Salzman that you should check out. But let's look forward to looking for some solutions to environmental problems.